Yo, Bitcoin OG Adam Back just went on the national news and dropped a number of bombshells about the current 2025 bull run. Are we repeating what happened in 2017, or is the price being suppressed like what happened in 2021? In my 9 years in the Bitcoin space, I've never seen a bull run where thousands of corporations and institutions are tripping over themselves to buy Bitcoin. And yet here we are. And not only corporations and institutions, nation states as well. Let's begin by diving down the rabbit hole and check out the clip. Here we go.
Well, it's hard to predict the timing, but I think we're certainly in the early stages of a bull market at this point. You know, typically the bull market cycle lasts for a certain period after the halving, and so we're still in the early innings. I think there's very stiff inflows from ETFs buying about 2 times the Bitcoin mined per day, MicroStrategy and the other Bitcoin treasury companies buying another 2 times, and the retail buyers and dollar cost average investors. So really there's a lot of inflow. I think, temporarily there's some consolidation because some earlier investors, sort of midterm investors, profit taking. But, that overlay would set us up for a price where you start to see Bitcoin competing with gold, perhaps pulling money out of gold ETFs into Bitcoin ETFs. And then, of course, if the treasuries come in, like the sovereign treasuries, the Bitcoin reserves, that would be something where you'd see sovereign competition. As soon as one of the bigger countries jumps in, I think the others will feel forced to follow suit. So that would, all bets would be off if that happens. Now, of course, institutional adoption, I think the family offices are faster, more agile, but the institutions are in play. You can see that the ETF 13F filings, which shows you the institutions that have bought Bitcoin via the ETFs, is about 30% institutional. I think there's a lot more capital in the institutional space of pension funds and mutual funds, so there's a lot of room for capital to come in,
Okay, a couple thoughts. First of all, Opti's with me in the flesh today. And of course, we got Bitcoin Q&A from Foundation. They make awesome hardware wallets like the Passport. And we're going to be making a special announcement on today's show. A couple quick thoughts before we get into the discussion. Michael Saylor today was at CPAC, which is a mainstream kind of political convention. Could not have imagined that in a million years. It was actually Senator Cynthia Lummis who retweeted it. And I saw it. I was like, oh my God. Another thing, Adam Back is on the floor of Wall Street. Like, what is Adam Back doing there? I think both those examples are testaments to where we are, where Bitcoin adoption is. I think we're on the verge of entering mainstream consciousness in terms of Bitcoin, the ideas of Bitcoin. Saylor's speech from CPAC literally gave me chills because he was talking about Satoshi. He was talking about broken money. And of course, you have Adam Back. And I got to say, Opti simply has better audio than CNBC because holy cow, you could barely hear Adam Back with all the people in the background. But yeah, I think he was making some incredible points. But also, I want to share something with you guys because a lot of things kind of don't make sense in a lot of ways because it does feel weird. It does feel weird in the sense that supposedly we have all these corporations, all these companies buying Bitcoin, and why is the price going sideways? We've been going sideways since November. This doesn't make any sense, right? I actually asked Samson Mao this question when we did, and by the way, it should be dropping on Saturday. We did an interview on top of a volcano in El Salvador. I said, man, look, all this bullish news, Bitcoin being embraced by governments, Bitcoin being embraced by institutions, why is the price going sideways? Here's Samson Mao, Bitcoin OG, right? Part of Blockstream originally. Now he has Jan 3. And he says, everyone can feel something is off with the huge disconnect between buy-side demand and the price. Everyone can see something is off by looking at the price going sideways for days within a tight range. Not everyone is willing to say the words price suppression, though. Here's a quote. It seems like it's some sort of price suppression, quoting Samson. If you look at the price movement, we peak and then we stay steady and chop sideways. It's good. You can say it's consolidation, but it looks very manufactured. I actually asked this question to James Lavish a couple days ago. I dropped that pod, I think it was on Saturday. I said, like, what's going on? Is this captured by Wall Street? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, supposedly you have all this buying, and the price isn't going up. Now, the argument that I heard, and I just heard Adam Back say it on the interview on CNBC, was basically along the lines of, like, you have OGs that bought Bitcoin under $1,000 and they're selling a lot of it the moment that it got to 100K. Think about it. For them, that's more than 100x. They've been holding for a decade. They want to upgrade their lifestyles. That makes sense. But at the same time, like, with the amount, the quantity of Bitcoin that MicroStrategy is buying, that these institutions are buying, it's just common sense. Like, I kind of agree with Samson. Not everyone agrees. Checkmatey has a different opinion. Here's Sam Callahan. He does amazing analysis. And he says, I dug through the 13F filings, and by my count, there were 1,573 institutions with long exposure to Bitcoin in Q4 2024. These include banks, hedge funds, RIAs, family offices, endowments, pensions, sovereign wealth funds, and other asset managers. Before we get into it, I want to clarify what a 13F filing actually is. Every quarter, larger investment firms must submit this form to the SEC, disclosing their holdings of U.S. stocks and equity-related assets such as ETFs, REITs, options, and convertible bonds. What's important to understand is a 13F filing only contains a firm's long positions in U.S. equity-related assets. So it excludes assets like bonds, real estate, commodities, precious metals, private investments, futures, spot Bitcoin, cash, foreign equities, currencies, short positions. As a result, a 13F provides an incomplete picture of a firm's total portfolio. We don't know a firm's position in other asset classes relative to its allocation to U.S. equity-related assets, nor do we know if a long position is just serving as a hedge against a short position elsewhere. I bring this up because I'll be discussing Bitcoin position sizes in these filings, but keep in mind, they reflect only the firm's U.S. equity allocation. So he goes on to list a couple. Abu Dhabi discloses $437 million stake in BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF. It goes on to say, with this in mind, the median Bitcoin position across all institutions in this filings was only 0.13%. We're still early. That's tiny and bullish. It suggests Bitcoin is still in the very early innings of institutional adoption. Reminder, BlackRock recently recommended a 1 to 2% allocation. It goes on to say, but there were a handful of these investment firms that had larger Bitcoin allocations than their peers, and they also just happen to be run by some of the best money managers with proven track record. Here are some of the most interesting filings that caught my eye. First, Horizon Kinetics. Horizon Kinetics' second largest position is BTC, 16.16%, with a $1.3 billion exposure. Second up, Bracebridge Capital. Its largest position is BTC, 23.6%, with $334 million worth of exposure. Number three, this should be pretty obvious. Tudor Investment Corp. We've all heard Paul Tudor Jones talk about Bitcoin for a very long time now. Tudor's largest position is BTC, with 1.625%, with a $436 million worth of exposure. Fortress Investment Group, its fourth largest position is BTC, with 11.2%, worth $70 million worth of exposure. Number five, Brevan Howard. Its second largest position is BTC, 8.74%, with $1.4 billion worth of exposure. Discovery Capital Management. Its fifth largest position is BTC, 4.6%, with $68 million worth of exposure. And it continues. The point that I'm trying to make, though, is one of the coping narratives that we used in 2017 when the price was falling It peaked at 20K, fell down to 3,500 in 2018. It was a terrible bear market. We're like, the institutions are coming. The institutions are coming. No, they were never coming. But the institutions, without a shadow of a doubt, are here. And the catalyst was the approval of the spot Bitcoin ETF and the fact that the ETF, the Bitcoin ETFs, have been the best performing ETFs in history. So make no mistake, what is happening in the background is that Wall Street, institutions, corporations, pension funds are all stacking a ridiculous amount of Bitcoin. But I do agree with Samson. If that's the case, why is the price going sideways? Are there that many whales that are just like, you know what? I've held Bitcoin for 10 years. I bought it at 300. I'm sick of it. I'm just going to sell it. Like, is that the argument that's being made? And last but not least, I want to do this this comparison because I have been talking for a while and I want to get Q&A's thoughts and Opti's thoughts. Let's do a cycle comparison, right? So, of course, you have Era 1. I'm going to take away Era 1 because, you know, it's Era 1 is obviously it's in the early innings of Bitcoin's history. The market cap was so small. The volatility was obviously going to be really high. Let's compare the last three eras, right? So, of course, you have the bull market of 2024, 2025. You have the bull market of 2020 and 2021. And then you have where me and Opti come from, the bull market of 2016, 2017, right? So if you look at 2021, we would be a lot higher in the 2021 if we were living on the 2021 time scale. We would be significantly higher. I think we would be at like the multiple is literally 2 times as much, right? It actually looks a lot more similar to the 2017 era. There was points in this cycle that Bitcoin actually got ahead of the 2017 era. And if you look at it right now, I mean, they look pretty similar. I think Bitcoin is on the verge of a pump. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin goes upwards, right? So yeah, I mean, what's going on is the price being suppressed. We know these institutions are adopting it. And if you take a look at where Saylor is talking, where Adam Back is talking, I mean, they literally got Adam Back on CNBC. He's on the floor of CNBC and he's being interviewed. 5 years ago, I don't think people would know who Adam Back was, right? Michael Saylor on a keynote at CPAC. This is the most popular conservative convention in the United States. And Michael Saylor is a keynote speaker. That should tell you everything you need to know. So why the F is the price not going up? That's my question. Anyways, I'm going to start off with Opti. And then, of course, let's pass it on to Q&A. Let's pass it on to Q&A. Q&A, I know you're a self-custody guy. I know that this is the price stuff might not interest you. But why is number not going up?
That is a very, very good question. I like to keep it as simple as possible. Is there price suppression going on? I think ultimately we're probably never going to know unless there's a huge scandal that potentially comes out one day. But I like to keep it simple and think, if we're going sideways, then we're around that big mental model number of 100K, like you suggested earlier. And, that will trigger a lot of people to sell. So the fact that we're going sideways, I like to just think, there's probably just an equal match or roughly thereabouts of buyers and sellers. However, with that said, the more and more big players that we get in, you've just been talking about what strategy up to. There's pension funds left, right, and center. There's talk of strategic Bitcoin reserves. There's talk of states, individual states, almost by the day, putting forward bills to buy Bitcoin at the moment. The more and more big kind of regulated players that we get coming into the space and buying larger and larger amounts of Bitcoin, the bigger the incentive there is for people that have the powers to be able to manipulate the markets to do so, in my opinion. So I think potentially if there is manipulation going on right now, then the incentive to make that continue is probably only going to grow.
100%. I also see our buddy BTC Sessions in the chat. Ben, I might rope you in to do the show with me tomorrow here. We'll fit three of us on the table. But no, I completely agree. There's buyers and sellers, right? Like that's why the thing is going sideways. But like, who are all these sellers? That's what I want to know. Like it must have been a lot of OGs that were just They're sick of it. I mean, think about that. That journey psychologically must have been rough, bro. Like going from, sub $1,000 Bitcoin to $100,000 Bitcoin. Like it's like you went to war and came back. Like you were a changed person. The amount of volatility you went through, the amount of, the hacks, and like the fact that if you made it over the finish line with your coins intact, is definitely pretty crazy. But anyhow, Opti, what's your take here, bro? I know where you're going to go with this. Is the Bitcoin price being suppressed, bro?
Well, I mean, I'm not against the idea. I obviously hold that idea in my head. I think we all kind of have to think about that, especially kind of what Q&A was saying. It's like, we got to remember, Bitcoin's a $2 trillion market cap right now. It's still very tiny in the grand schemes of global markets. So obviously, as Q&A was saying, if there's an incentive to keep the price low, suppress the price, then people are going to do that. But at a certain point, once Bitcoin gets big enough, then they won't be able to move the markets. And remember, like, Bitcoin is basically the size of one of the larger corporations in the world right now. So it's not tiny, but there's still a capability of a lot of people with capital, and this is a global market, to kind of keep the price low. I've been kind of doing, as the reigning 45 IQ person on the show, I've been kind of thinking, the billionaire FUD playbook, you kind of FUD it, you keep the price low so you can pack your bags and get your position. And then once, you get that position, you start to pump Bitcoin. And we're starting to see people come out there and publicly shill Bitcoin, which is very, very interesting, especially when you kind of look at those numbers that Sam Callahan was saying. And the big one that stuck out to me was obviously over 1,500 corporations having Bitcoin ETF exposure. Obviously, we kind of consider that paper Bitcoin. We want them to hold the real thing, but there's some loopholes that they have to go through, hence why it's easier for them to hold ETFs, etc. But the big number to me was that number where he said if you average out, or the median holding size of all these corporations is only 0.13%. And as he said, BlackRock is recommending 1% to 2%. So all I'm hearing is we are still super early in people understanding what Bitcoin is. Obviously, it's the second month of the year. And with all the things that Adam Back was saying, it is kind of interesting that we aren't seeing the price go absolutely nuclear, but I think it's only a matter of time. And like I was telling everyone in the chat, it's like, I think we all have to kind of lower our time preference here a little bit. We got to be a little patient. They yell at us for starting a little late. I'm like, hey, you guys claim to be Bitcoiners, and yet we get super impatient on things that don't happen right now. But when we really zoom out, 10 years from now, I'm sure we're going to look back at 100K and be like, man, I wish I bought more when it was going sideways for that 3 months. Like now it's 1 million plus and I can't get as much.
Bars. No, I think that's definitely a lot of wisdom there, right? We're definitely going to be looking at these prices. Wait, we got a comment. DB says the markets are not being suppressed. Anyone attempting to pull off such a feat would be taking way too much risk for almost no gain. DB, you wanna elaborate a little bit on that? What you mean by that? It seems like you have a deeper understanding of the markets.
I think he's saying that if they're selling
drop
Bitcoin
it in the chat.
right
Let's ask the chat, guys. If you think the Bitcoin price is being suppressed, drop 1 in the chat. If you think the Bitcoin price is not being suppressed, drop 2 in the chat. Let us know your thoughts. Brandon B says the manipulation is from the market makers. It's completely natural, though. Seems like a lot of people know about markets in the chat. W being late. The patient will win. Brandon B. Z Logic says 1. So yes, again, if you think the markets are being suppressed, press 1. The Bitcoin price is being suppressed, press 1. If you think the Bitcoin price isn't being suppressed, press 2. Let us know. And of course, smash that like button. We just broke 500 live viewers on YouTube alone. Appreciate all you guys, and almost 2,000 live viewers across all platforms. Of course, appreciate the Rumble and X audience as well. We absolutely love you guys. Guys, we have a hell of a show lined up for you guys. We have 2 videos of Trump, of course, taking credit for the Bitcoin price pumping. And on Air Force One, there's a video of Trump literally saying they're going to audit Fort Knox. Is the gold there? Is the gold not there? I personally think it's not there. And during the news segment, we actually have a very interesting story for you guys. It's a quick update about the Nigerian central bank digital currency, the failure. There was a Binance executive that was arrested because essentially the government was frustrated that people weren't using the CBDC. That executive was freed. So quick update there. All right, sorry about that, guys. We lost internet. What was the last thing I was saying?
I just hit the ad. Just keep
okay, guys. We're gonna keep rolling. We're gonna keep rolling with it. Sorry about that, guys. We had a little bit of a technical mishap. Anyways, guys, before we jump into the rest of the show, it's absolutely loaded for you guys. I do want to give a shout out to, of course, our lead sponsor, BitcoinWell.com. BitcoinWell.com is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Enable your independence today with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin on-chain or via the Lightning Network in Canada and the USA. To get started, you put in your email address, takes 2 to 5 minutes to sign up. And what makes Bitcoin Well different is that it's a completely non-custodial platform, empowering sovereign ownership with free and automatic self-custody. Also, if you're a higher net worth individual that's looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. It's a white glove service tailored for people who are trying to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more. If you're sick and tired of dealing with terrible UI or very slow support emails, and you want a real human being every time you want to buy or sell Bitcoin, you got to check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. You're going to have a dedicated representative assigned to you, and you're going to be able to text them or call them every time you want to buy or sell Bitcoin. If you're an American living in the United States of America, you can now get paid in Bitcoin sent directly to your personal Bitcoin wallet. Share your Bitcoin Well direct deposit details with your employer, set your Bitcoin/dollar split, and receive sats instead of fiat with every paycheck. Guys, check out bitcoinwell.com today. This is by far the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. All right, everybody, let's jump into the numbers. We have a hell of a show for you guys. Let's check it out. I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not.
allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on StampSeed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
All right, everybody, we are back. By the way, you can use the QR code on your screen right now, and you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the StampSeed website. Do not store your seed phrase. Don't write down your seed words on paper. Stamp it into titanium. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 97,960. Block height 884,601. Sats per dollar 1,021. Market cap 1.94 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 9.37%. Percentage issued 94.41%, decline from all-time high, negative 10.3%. Check this out, Opti. Realized monetary inflation continues to go down 0.98%. Holy cow, man. Continuing to embarrass fiat currencies. Anyways, quick Orange Man update. I mean, that's what it is. Interesting things and I don't know which one we should start with. Let's start with Fort Knox because we did an episode on that the other day.
We're going to go into Fort Knox to make sure the gold is there.
Are they going to?
You know that we're going to go into Fort Knox. Do you know about that?
Sir,
That was a bad bump.
are they going to eliminate more national security positions, civilians there?
We'll see what happens. But one of the things we do want to look, I mean, we hope everything's fine with Fort Knox, but we're going to go to Fort Knox, the fabled Fort Knox, to make sure the gold is there.
Where would the gold have gone?
No wonder no wonder they wanted to kill this dude. No wonder, bro. He wants to get rid of the IRS. The Doge thing was absolutely crazy. He freed Ross, right? He's talking about strategic Bitcoin reserve. And now he wants to find out if the gold is actually at Fort Knox. Bro, no wonder. Anyways, here's another video of President Trump. Let's check it out. He's talking about Bitcoin.
Jones Industrial Average is up 2,200 points, and Bitcoin has set multiple all-time record highs because everyone knows that I'm committed to making America the crypto capital. We want to stay at the forefront of everything, and one of them is crypto, and Miami seems to be the center of the action, come to think of it.
As a fellow Miamian, no.
He's talking about shitcoin.
As a fellow Miamian, no. Miami is not the capital of Bitcoin. I would say it's either Nash or Austin and different things. But I mean, look, to be fair, okay? Bitcoin pumped like crazy the moment that everyone found out the election results, right? Under the previous administration, without a shadow of a doubt, they were attacking the industry. As soon as the markets figured out that Trump was going to get elected, it was like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. As soon as that pressure was released, it just went bananas. So, you say whatever you want to say about him. Technically, he's right. The price did pump because he won the election. Technically, he's right. And in the Fort Knox thing, man, no wonder. No wonder they hated this guy. No wonder the media attacked this guy. Could you imagine if they, Elon does a live stream, goes to Fort Knox, and he goes and opens the vaults and there's no gold. Dude, that would be one of the, I don't think they would allow, I don't think Trump would do that. I don't think Trump would do that.
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't mean to jump in here, but I don't even think a video of the Fort Knox vault would justify even an audit. To me, that doesn't mean anything. It's maybe, it could be fake gold.
It could be fake gold.
Just on a video. It's literally how, we have Q&A here, and talking about privacy and, using a Zoom call to verify the gold's there. that won't do anything. That is, it makes us feel good until we get an actual, auditor in there to assail the gold, make sure that it's actually what it is. Or as someone was telling us in the chat, scan the bars, make sure it's actually all gold. A video is not enough for me personally to believe that it's there. But, even if we did see it, I guess that would quell some of the concerns around here. Though I did hear kind of an interesting take on Twitter, and this is going into like conspiracy theory land. But someone was saying, what if they did do a video call of Fort Knox, and it's not that all the gold's gone, but there's actually more gold in the vault than they claim to have. And the people would wonder, well, where did they get all that gold? I don't know. Hey, I'm just, relaying some stuff I heard on Twitter. But going to the next clip before I pass it over to QA, because, as you can hear, QA's got a very beautiful accent here. So maybe he doesn't care so much about Fort Knox like we do. But the Trump clip about Bitcoin, there's a few things that I want to mention. First of all, is there's been a lot of people in the chat saying recently, like, oh, he's a politician. He's just talking his book. He's just making you feel good. He's just sending you some red meat to the audience. He knows that people are interested in Bitcoin or interested in crypto. And this is the only reason why he's talking about crypto. But I think that he's doubling down on this idea of, he's like, everyone knows that I'm very interested in Bitcoin, which I think is, further credence to this idea that we've all been kind of talking about and wondering is how much does Trump actually care about Bitcoin? How serious is he about either a strategic Bitcoin reserve or, passing good regulations, et cetera? Well, I think hearing him double down multiple times on it, I think is, obviously he's a politician. We got to kind of have to take him at his word for this, but it does sound like he's very serious about Bitcoin. And as we've heard him say in the past, he's looking at the Bitcoin prices like a second Wall Street. And so he wants it to pump. I think he's incentivized to see it pump. And as a Bitcoin holder, hey, I'm all here for this. And then the last point, Nico, that we were talking about, maybe he's been hanging out around too many meme coin people, because Miami is definitely not the epicenter of Bitcoin. It's the epicenter of shitcoinery. So those are my thoughts here, but let's pass it over to Q&A.
100%. Q&A. I mean, dude, pretty crazy. I don't think we would have, I really don't think we would have expected this, 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, where, the president of the United States, you make an argument, one of the most powerful countries, or the most powerful country on the face of the planet, is taking credit for the Bitcoin price pumping. And so I want to get your thoughts on that, Q&A.
Yeah, it's an absolutely wild timeline. If you'd have said to me when I first got into Bitcoin around 2018 that the president of the USA would be boasting about pumping the price, I'd have laughed in your face. So yeah, it's definitely kind of a surreal position to be in and to experience this. Around the point of like, I'm almost reluctant to get optimistic about any politician. I think that's a good kind of mantra to live your life by. But with that said, I think he deserves a lot of credit for sticking to his word about freeing Ross. I was absolutely elated to see that happen. I genuinely didn't think that was ever going to come to fruition. And not only did he went over and above what he said. He said he was going to, I forget the term now. You'll have to help me out. I'm not an American, but it was commensurate his commute his sentence when he actually got like a full acquittal. Again, I'm not sure what you guys call it over there in the US, but he went over and above what he said he was going to do, and to see Ross walk free, and the images that he's had been posting with his family and his mother and his wife and stuff is just, it's just wonderful. So I'm slow to praise politicians, but for that he deserves a lot of credit. But then I'm also quite big on keeping and holding people to their actions. And day one of his presidency, or it might have even been day -1, him and his wife released their meme coins, which then proceeded to dump like 90% the following day. So very, very cautiously kind of optimistic around the landscape for the next 4 years. The US, for better or worse, is the superpower of the world. And when you guys when a change happens over in the US, generally speaking, the rest of the world does follow suit. So if the US is heading on a positive trajectory in terms of an outlook for Bitcoin, then that makes me positive for the outlook for the rest of the world, at least for the next 4 years during his presidency. But with that said, always judge people by their actions, not what they say, to gain some votes.
100%. I think that's a really, really, really good point, right? Judge people by their actions. I think two things could be true at the same time. And I think this is like what's really, I think it could be confusing Bitcoiners, which is like Trump, like, and I think it's true of all politics, right? Where there has to be concessions. And like Trump repealed SAB 121, ended, the attack on the industry, freed Ross. And, to add to your point, Q&A, he went from he promised to commute his sentence, which basically means like, you're still guilty, but, we're going to let you out of jail. But he gave him a full pardon, right? And I think the reason he gave him a full pardon, and I think the opposing party really kind of miscalculated this, all the lawfare that they did on Trump, like trying to stop him from going to office. Now it kind of makes sense when Trump's saying like, oh, the fabled Fort Knox, like we'll see where the gold is at. And like all the fraud that's been discovered with the whole Doge thing, like no wonder. But yeah, I mean, they pissed him off to such an, do you see his portrait? His presidential portrait is is the same face he made for the mugshot, right? So yes, two things could be true at the same time. Definitely positive for the industry, but at the same time, there's been a ton of meme coin and crypto degeneracy that's been happening, right? So I agree with Q&A's stance, right? It's good to be cautious about politicians, but at the same time, we do have to give them credit when they come through. And I think freeing Ross was a huge, huge victory for the Bitcoin movement and the libertarian movement. And one thing that I'll say that perhaps is a little bit unpopular, but I tell our boy Rustin this all the time. I'm like, dude, the Trump did more for the libertarian movement than any other libertarian candidate in the history of the Libertarian Party, right? So, and then Rustin's like, yeah, that's actually right. So anyways, quick update on the Orange Man. We still have a ton of content for you guys left. We're going to be talking about Nigeria, central bank digital currencies. We're going to be talking about how governments are portraying central bank digital currencies as the future of currency, the future, their ability for them to retain the power and the privilege of being able to create money for free that the rest of us have to work for. They're dropping words like sovereignty. They're dropping words like, it's like, they're just like crossing the wires, man. One last thing I'll say before we move on to the next segment. Do you remember how they tried to pass that bill that every $600 transaction had to be reported? Like that was pure grade A projection with the amount of BS that we've been. What was it that they sent like $50 million worth of condoms to Mozambique?
Something like that.
If you did the math, that would be like, I think it was like 25 condoms per person.
Like hey, that's not enough. That's not enough.
That's fraud, dude. Like, there's no way to cut it. And I remember the reporter in the press conference was like, you guys have to clarify this because originally you said that you guys were going to send this to Palestine, like these condoms. And then like, you have to clarify because they were actually going to Mozambique. And then Elon was like, does that make it any better? Like, do the American people know that they're paying $50 million worth of taxes? The average taxpayer throughout their entire life pays $500,000 worth of taxes. Just do the math, right? 50 million of that was going to paying for like the whole thing is messed up, right? And the root of all of this is central banking. The root of all of this is fiat money. This is what we're fighting against. This is a peaceful revolution. This is what Bitcoin is all about. And as long as governments have the ability to create money for free, they're going to continue to abuse that power. So even if Doge goes perfectly, it doesn't fix the root cause. And that is really, really what we're going to continue to hammer on and fix. I mean, talk about here at Simply Bitcoin.
No, don't say the comments. I'm just referencing the comments.
Yeah, our live chat is wild. Anyways, guys, help us break 200 likes within the first hour of the show. We're at 169 likes. Smash that like button. I kind of want to drop a poll before we move on to the next segment. Opti, what are you thinking? What are you thinking?
You
bro?
have a poll.
No. That's another poll in the chat. I'm talking about a poll in the thing.
Do it. Yeah, I don't know. A poll in the what?
Opti's failing me live. All right, everybody, let's get to the news segment. We still have a ton to talk about. Then the culture segment, we're going to talk about Passport and a new segment that Simply Bitcoin is collaborating on, which is going to be really, really exciting. So we will be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Bitcoin security matters, but managing private keys can sometimes be complicated, especially multi-sig. What if you can secure your Bitcoin without worrying about losing a seed phrase or giving up custody? With Casa, you can completely control your Bitcoin with multi-key security, so even if one key is lost or stolen, your funds stay safe. No single point of failure, no stress. That's what I absolutely love about these guys. They make taking Bitcoin into self-custody incredibly easy with their best in industry user experience through their app. I've been personally recommending Casa for years now to my friends and family because they will get all the benefits of multi-key self-custody security without the hassle of having to learn complicated UI. And if you're thinking of one day passing on your Bitcoin to the next generation, their inheritance plan has you covered. Also, if you're a business looking to add Bitcoin to your treasury, do it the secure way with Casa for Business. To get started, go to casa.io today and get 5% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium with promo code SIMPLY. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation. It's self-custody done right. They've built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US, and it integrates seamlessly with their free app called Envoy. Passport is fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet design with a UX reminiscent of a classic feature phone, so you'll know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. It's also air-gapped, meaning Bitcoin stays offline, never touching an internet connection. It's Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, air-gap security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes with Passport at foundation.xyz/simply. Get peace of mind for your piece of Bitcoin.
All right. Normally, Opti would have the Passport in his hands, but he doesn't because he's traveling, and you shouldn't travel with your hardware wallet. But he has it in his hands. Get yourself a Passport by Foundation Devices. Promo code SIMPLY to get a discount. And I also saw something in the chat as well, and I want to pull it up. Where can I find the chat? Here it is. Q should demo the Passport. Get Opti. Q doesn't have So yeah.
Just imagine it's here, guys.
The day that one of the Foundation guys comes on is the only day that Opti doesn't have the Passport on him. Yeah. Don't travel with your hardware.
Well, maybe
wallets.
Q&A can tell the audience that it's probably not the best OPSEC to go through TSA with your Passport. So maybe I'm doing something right here.
Definitely wouldn't advise traveling with your hardware wallet if you don't need to. However, I will say I make a point of traveling with one of my test ones anywhere I go on a flight, and I've never once been stopped.
Oh, there you go. Some tea for you guys.
For now. Like I feel
exactly.
like
that's not to say
that's happening now, but I think like in 5 or 10 years, like yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So. But I think, I think it honestly, you could just say it, dude. It's a Nokia phone. Just like technically, okay. It's like it's a special edition Nokia. Anyhow, all right. So let's talk about this. What am I doing?
Take the comment off.
Oh, thank you. All right, everybody. So let's talk about Nigeria's central bank digital currency, the e-Naira. Why is this important? Why is this so important? Like, I know it's like a lot of you, most of our audience is based out of the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom. And the rest of the audience is worldwide. And we absolutely love you guys. But maybe you guys don't care what's happening in Nigeria. The reason you should care is because it's a test bed. It's a foreshadowing. This is what they want to do worldwide. Make no mistake. Do you think they're just going to give over the keys and say, you guys have found better money? And you know what? Like, look at how they've reacted to Doge. Like, look at how they've reacted to that. And I'll put it bluntly, guys, that was straight looting. Like, they were looting. They were taking tax dollars and they were assigning those tax dollars to, projects, and they hide behind the nobility of those projects, right? They'll say like, oh, sending $50 million worth of condoms, to stop HIV to Mozambique is actually good. But when you kind of like look into the details, you're like, wait a second, like that's more condoms than the entire population. It's fraud. It's obviously fraud. How are a lot of these politicians worth tens of millions of dollars off a government salary? It doesn't make sense, right? And that's what happened with the whole USAID thing, right? It was essentially a slush fund, but you were paying for it. If you're a taxpayer, you're paying for it. And make no mistake, if you live in a Western country that has a powerful fiat currency, most likely corruption and fraud and mismanagement, it's probably happening in your country too, right? So this is just the tip of the iceberg. As Bitcoiners, we know the solution to this. The solution to this is the separation of money and state. If you don't separate money and state, they will continue to do this. It's human nature. There's no self-correcting mechanism. There's no incentive for them to change. Like, think about it for a second. If you make a bad decision as a business owner, you go out of business. If you make a bad decision as a government bureaucrat, there's no feedback whatsoever to your bad decision. There's no feedback to it. You just print more, right? That's it. You could just print it, right? Anyhow, so now that I give you guys the context, what happened in Nigeria? Well, the e-Naira was incredibly unpopular. They rolled it out and there was no adoption of it. Why was there very little adoption of the Nigerian central bank digital currency? Because it doesn't solve two problems that Bitcoin solves. Governments will always want to control and censor money, and governments will always want to debase money. In fact, until Bitcoin came along, there was a very solid argument that money couldn't exist without inflation. Now, as long as Bitcoin continues, it continues to prove that not only can money exist without inflation, money is actually significantly better without inflation. And unfortunately, for governments that have been using the money printer as a form of revenue, they have to answer some very tough questions, right? What happens when their constituents start to say, hey, wait a second, guys, like, you tax my income already. We've agreed to that. There's laws. There's a social contract. But I never agreed to my money being taxed via inflation. And you see how they react to this when you see them try to justify it. They'll blame the war in Ukraine. They'll blame the supply chains. They'll blame the weather. This is actually true, right? They'll blame everything and anything but themselves, even though they're the sole cause. How could the weather debase the currency? That's impossible. So they rely on the fact that people are not educated on the matter, and they get away with it. But make no mistake, and if you guys want to take one thing from this episode today, inflation is taxation, and it's taxation that isn't agreed upon. And if it's taxation that isn't agreed upon via legislation or via the social contract, that is theft. Let's be blunt. Inflation is theft. You can make the same argument about taxation. You can say taxation is theft. Guess what? It went through Congress. People voted on it. It's the law. So that's your opinion that taxation is theft, but it's in the social contract. It's not in the social contract that we have to pay the money tax. It's not in the social contract. So anyways, I had to give all that context. I know it's a little bit long-winded, but the Nigeria central bank digital currency, which was a test bed for central bank digital currencies worldwide, was an absolute failure. And you know what they did when it failed? They actually arrested one of the Binance executives. And the reason that they arrested him is because they claimed that Binance was causing instability in the country. Why? Because a lot of Nigerians were using Binance as an off-ramp to their local fiat currency. So they were using Binance as an off-ramp. And they blamed Binance for essentially facilitating being an off-ramp. Instead of taking responsibility and say, okay, guys, we should probably print less money because, this inflation stuff is going crazy. No. They blame this, private company and corporation. But anyhow, this guy was sitting in prison for a very long time. This is the news today. This is the update. Nigeria freed how do you say that, Opti?
I don't know. That's the guy's name. Gambarian?
Freed Gambarian in exchange for access to U.S. financial surveillance capabilities. So Nigeria appears to have exchanged Binance executive and former IRS criminal investigator Tigran Gambarian for access to U.S. resources and expertise in financial surveillance capabilities as part of a secret deal with the U.S. State Department. Very, very, very interesting. So it goes on to say, the Nigerian regime is known for being one of the most corrupt and abusive in the world. Additionally, Nigeria became the first country to launch a central bank digital currency. So very, very interesting. This guy is freed. Make no mistake. Don't buy into the gaslighting. The reason that the reason that they locked this guy up was because Binance was providing an off-ramp for the Nigerian people. But I want to connect this with what's happening in Europe, right? So Nigel, or I think that's how you say his name, says Europe needs digital currency for sovereignty. So check that out. I'm going to read that again, right? Because it contradicts. I've came up with the term, guys, in the same. I'm kind of applying it with the $600, the law that they tried to pass, where every $600 transaction had to be, verified and audited. Meanwhile, they're screaming and saying, this is a threat to the democracy when we, the people, want to audit the government. I came up with the term of central banker and politician projection. So they project onto us what it is they are guilty of themselves. And I find it absolutely hilarious that this guy is basically claiming that without a central bank digital currency, Europe won't have sovereignty, which is hilarious. Sovereignty for who? Sovereignty for the politicians? Sovereignty for the bureaucrats? Or sovereignty for the people, right? So anyways, it goes on to say, Europe should introduce a digital currency both for retail and wholesale, used as a sovereign instrument to stand up against private sector forces in global finance. Do you see the wording in that? Private sector forces. Okay, so let's do a close-up on me, Opti. Okay, so let's break it down for just a second. Can you audit the European Central Bank? No. Can you create more euros? No. You go to jail, right? Can you create more Bitcoin? Yeah, all you got to do is mine it. Can you audit Bitcoin anytime you want if you're running your own node? Yeah. What sounds more private and what sounds more public to you? And full circle, this is what I mean by central banker and politician projection. They project onto us what it is they're guilty of themselves. And this article is very clever because what they're doing is they're wordsmithing, right? They're wordsmithing. They're basically saying, hold on, guys. We need a sovereign instrument to stand up against private sector forces. What if the private sector comes up with better money for the people? Because that's what happened. That's what happened. But you can't claim that Bitcoin is controlled by a cabal of people. Bitcoin is completely decentralized. No one controls it. The rules are set in stone. It's just an inconvenience to you that it's just better money than the money that you guys have issued. And I'll tell you something. I don't think Bitcoin would have been invented if it wasn't for the abuses that the central bankers committed. It says it in the Genesis block on the Chancellor on the brink of the second bailout for banks. Satoshi inherently knew they were going to continue to debase the currency. So, I mean, like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, this is, it's projection. But one thing is pointing this out, but another thing is, guys, you have to take personal agency and you have to get on top of this, because most people aren't consuming Simply Bitcoin as content. Most people, and a lot of people, for whatever reason, are still consuming their information from legacy media. And if you're not aware of what money is, then you're looking at this and you're like, holy cow, you know what? Opti, the private sector, bro, it's a threat. It's a threat to our democracy. Holy cow, this Bitcoin thing is a threat to the democracy. I would say, what I would claim is central banking is a clear and present threat to democracy, much more than a central bank digital currency. Anyways, so it goes on to say, in a Q&A session at the close of an OMFIF lecture in association with the London School of Economics, Nigel coupled skepticism about developments in the crypto economy. With assurances that the European Central Bank would not take risks with undue monetary easing. Speaking at the lecture 10 days before a German general election, he said, "The closer we get to the neutral rate, the more appropriate it becomes to take gradual approach." He goes on to say, proceeding in any data-driven and gradual manner has served the ECB governing council well. There is no reason to act hastily in the present uncertain environment. The data tells us where we need to go. Echoing his French counterpart, Governor whatever, Nigel foresaw inflation in the euro area falling to around the ECB's 2% target by the summer, providing further leeway for potential rate cuts. During the discussion, he left his audience in no doubt about his views on the crypto-friendly leanings of the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump. He argued that Bitcoin was not a currency, but more like an asset class, describing it as the opposite of transparent. I'm telling you, the law of central bank politician projection never fails. How the F is their system more transparent than ours, right? It's an open ledger. Anyone can verify it at any time, right? So don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. It's like that $600 law that they tried to pass.
Wait, go back. Read that part.
Okay, I got to pull this up. Like they're going to try to do what they did in Nigeria. And here it is. CBDCs will play a role in future resilience of Europe, he stated, indicating that this was tied to European sovereignty, outlining the growing strength of private sector actors, many from the US in the international payments field. He cautioned that these could be used in a digital environment as a form of weapon. Underlying, this is all projection. This is 100% projection. He is projecting what he believes the CBDC can be used for. Underlying the need for Europe to establish a means of resistance in the digital sphere. When asked about the impact of digitalization and the introduction of a CBDC on a neutral rate of interest, Nigel said it was too early to tell, but reiterated that a CBDC will have an important role in the future, adding that it is a public good that the monetary authorities should provide. Like, dude, no, and again, just catch them over and over and over and over and over and over again. They hide behind the veneer of it being a public good. Like they hide behind it. They say, this is for your safety. If not, it's a threat to democracy. But in reality, They just want power and control. And this is one of the things that I love about Bitcoin is that it exposes incentives. His incentives are being exposed. Okay, let me ask you something. In the case with Nigeria, they're dealing with double-digit inflation. Why do you think people are seeking alternative currencies? They don't want to deal with double-digit inflation. Why in the US, even with the dollar, which is a relatively stable fiat currency, relatively stable, why are people still seeking Bitcoin? Because it's better money. So the problem that politicians and central bankers have is, and they use, like all this very complicated language and all these justifications, is how are you going to explain to people that inflation is necessary when clearly it's being proved every single day that Bitcoin continues to survive, that it isn't necessary? How are you going to convince them of that? And what happens when people start to realize that when you adopt a Bitcoin standard, your life gets progressively cheaper versus if you're on a fiat standard, your life gets progressively more expensive for the rest of time? How are you going to explain that away? So they used people's goodwill and good intention and belief in that system, and they abused it. And I think that if they wouldn't have abused it, I don't think Bitcoin would exist. I think that if what didn't happen in 2008, if what happened in 2008 didn't happen, I don't think Bitcoin would exist. Bitcoin was a reaction to the crime they committed. And remember, no significant central banker or banker in general went to jail for what happened in 2008, where the American people, the Main Street, bailed out Wall Street. And that's what Bitcoin's about. So don't let them gaslight you. Don't let them use these words. Don't let them say that it's because of this and it's because of that, and Europe needs sovereignty and it's a public good. No, question them. Let me ask you something. How is the central bank more public than Bitcoin? And watch them. They cannot answer the question. Make them follow their own rules. Make them answer those questions. They don't have answers to those questions. They're relying on the fact that you don't know any better. But in the era of the internet and the era of mass scale peer-to-peer communications, aka social media, their ability to control the narrative is gone. It doesn't exist anymore, but we have to use it. We have to take advantage of it. This is narrative trench warfare on the battlegrounds of the internet. And what we're fighting for is the freedom of humanity from the tyranny of central banking. But we have to, this is about winning over the hearts and minds. It's about getting the message out there. That's all it's about. It's not kinetic. It's literally about information warfare. Literally talking to the person next to you and telling them the truth. It's not left versus right. It's not red versus blue. It's green versus orange. It's fiat versus Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin or slavery. That's it. Drop mic. I'm going to get Q&A in here. Went on a rant. It just makes me so passionate, bro, when I hear these like central bankers and politicians just like complete gaslight and say stuff like, oh, you know what? This is important for European sovereignty. Oh, you know what? This is Bitcoin isn't public. Bitcoin is private. Like, it's such BS. Q&A. I know Brit exit happened. I know, the United Kingdom went a separate direction, but bro, Brussels is going crazy, are they not?
Yeah, there's just some outrageous comments in there. You've obviously touched on all of the big ones. The only one that you missed off that I wanted to highlight was earlier on in the article where he mentioned that we are not going to do anything rash, basically, and we're not going to print a load of money in response to this. And I was just thinking immediately, well, hang on, that ship's already sailed. Like, you've already printed trillions and trillions of euros, and inflation is running rampant throughout your territory. Like, it's too late for that sort of shit. And like you said, that is the driver for people to want change. It's almost poetic around the timing of the 2008 financial crisis and the launch of Bitcoin. It's almost as if it was planned. But I just dropped it into the comments of the live chat as well. And necessity is the mother of innovation. When people get backed into a corner, they will look for a solution, and clearly that solution at the moment is Bitcoin.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with you. Opti, quick take, because I know we're running a little bit long today, and I do want to get to the culture segment.
Yeah, no, I mean, my take, not to rehash everything you guys said, because you guys hit the nail on the head on most of that stuff. What I find very interesting is the part where they start talking about the private sector. And I'm currently at the point that I'm starting to believe that we might not even actually see a CBDC come out from any central bank, because of what we saw in Nigeria. Even though, Nigel, whatever his name is, sorry for mispronouncing it, even though they keep pushing this idea that they need a central bank digital currency, I'm starting to feel like most people, at the very least, are waking up to what that actually means. And the more they push, the more people are going to work against it. And obviously just go for the easier route, which is, of course, going into Bitcoin. And so I'm starting to believe that even though they keep talking about it, even though they keep doing double speak around Bitcoin, especially this article is, quintessential double speak from Orwell's novels here, where they're projecting everything that, Bitcoin is onto what they're creating. And they're trying to spin this narrative that, CBDCs will be good for you. And I think this is falling on deaf ears. And so I'm starting to become very bearish on the fact that there will even be a CBDC coming out of a central bank. But like they said, you guys know me, I'm not above the idea that maybe, the central bank digital currency comes from the private sector. And hence why I'm kind of more anti against stable coins. But I think CBDCs aren't going to happen. At first, we've been covering this a long time. It seemed like it was right around the corner. Now it seems like there's less, possibility of this happening, especially now we have the U.S. essentially saying we're not going to create a CBDC, whether from Trump or from Jerome Powell, from our central bank. So I'm starting to be a little less bearish, and I guess more bullish on the idea that Bitcoin's going to take over. A CBDC is just not going to happen. It's not favorable. People don't want this. They'll try, but I think they're going to fail. And so that I'm obviously bullish on humanity on this point and Bitcoin taking over.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I 100% agree with you guys. We're going to hit the culture segment. We have tons to talk about. We got Q&A in the house from Foundation. We're going to talk about the passport. We're going to be talking about a new segment of Simply Bitcoin that we are going to be announcing. We're going to be rolling out next month. It's going to be really, really exciting. So stay tuned, guys. We will be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, HIVE Digital Technologies. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's been battle tested through every possible market. And as the first with an AI strategy, HIVE continues to redefine the future of sustainable energy. Also, gotta casually drop this in here, HIVE consistently tops the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're changing the game. Learn more by following them at HIVE Digital Tech or check out their website, hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, Compass Mining. They make Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone, from beginners to experienced investors. Their turnkey miners gets you online and hashing within 48 hours, making it easier than ever to start your mining journey. Plus, with their active marketplace, you can resell your miner at any time, adding flexibility and value to your investment. Visit their website to access a wealth of resources, learning everything you need to know about Bitcoin mining. Take your first step into the world of Bitcoin mining with confidence. Discover more at compassmining.io. Again, compassmining.io, and see how Compass Mining can power your success.
All right, everybody, we are back. Guys, Q&A, do you want to do the honors or shall we?
I can jump in. Yeah, absolutely. very, very excited about this, guys. It's been a bit of work in the background to bring this together. And it's basically happy to announce a new segment on the Simply Bitcoin show. Going to be starting off once per month at the moment. And it is called the Simply Bitcoin Academy. So what the hell is the Simply Bitcoin Academy? So the aim of the game here, guys, is that we want to help all of the Simply Bitcoin and Foundation customers and listeners and watchers, viewers, all of the above, to get involved and get their hands dirty and learn more about using Bitcoin and becoming more and more sovereign. So that could be literally anything from, basics of self-custody, how to use a Lightning wallet, how to set up a multi-sig wallet, which is the best options to purchase as part of your multi-sig wallet. What the hell is a mobile wallet? Is Sparrow wallet a good option? How the hell do I run a node? How can I become more private when interacting with Bitcoin? What the hell is UTXO management? How do I test my backups? Like those are just some examples that I brainstormed before. What I want to do is I'm going to be on hand, along with obviously Nico and Opti, to take your questions in multitude of formats to basically just help you level up for anything related to using Bitcoin, interacting with Bitcoin. We want to just get you guys taken to the next level so that you can level up your sovereignty, your security, etc. And then you can go and do that with your friends and family as well, so that we can continue to grow the Hive mind.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm extremely excited. I think it's going to add a tremendous amount of value for all of you guys. A lot of the questions that we get is, people just don't know how to take self-custody. So we're going to have a dedicated segment in the show after the culture segment. And it's just going to be about learning how to take self-custody, learning how to use the Passport device. And they just announced a new device as well. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. And learning how to use all those features, because, guys, you have to understand the pivotal moment we are in history. We're transitioning from the analog era into the information age. And, in the information age, taking custody of your digital identity, taking custody of your wealth is possible. And it could be a little bit intimidating for a lot of people because they're not used to that. They've been, living in the fiat matrix for most of their lives, and they've been outsourcing that responsibility to banks. They've been outsourcing that responsibility to governments. And you can make a very solid argument that has been abused, right? So it's time for people to take back their actual sovereignty, not the sovereignty that mother effer was talking about in that article. But the way that you do that, sovereignty, taking back your sovereignty, comes with great responsibility, because there is no 1-800 number to call if you make a mistake. There is no, there is no support line, right? We're very picky on who we choose to partner with. We have Foundation. We have Casa, makes self-custody even easier with their multi-sig setup and all that stuff. So there's so many partners that you guys could choose of that we're with that allow you make this journey easier. And I could say, without a shadow of a doubt, the Passport device, one of the reasons I like recommending it is they don't sacrifice security for convenience, right? We have to remember that, it seems easy, but the whole concept of it, of writing down 12 words, and those 12 words are your money, is a very radical concept, right? Remember the early days of when you were getting into Bitcoin, right? So what I love about what the Passport guys do is they try to make that transition as seamless as possible. And part of that is education. So, the Simply Bitcoin Academy is going to be part of that educational front. We're going to have slideshows for you guys. We're going to have live previews. And of course, we're going to have Q&A here to answer any Q&As that you guys might have, right? So I'm going to pull up the Foundation website and just show off the two products that you guys have. Of course, the Passport, which we guys have been recommending for a long time now. Opti, can you put up the QR code, please? Oh, sorry about that. So yes, this is a Passport, guys. It's an amazing hardware wallet. It is compatible with Casa, by the way. So if you're using the Casa product, you can use the Passport as one of the keys. It's very seamless. You don't even have to connect it with the computer. You can just use the cameras. It's very, very cool. And again, it's if you're familiar with the Nokia, right? If you're as old as me, as Opti, right? You're very familiar with this type of device. It's very user friendly. It's very easy to use, and it's completely air gapped. So it's never connected to the internet. The USB-C thing that you see at the bottom, that's just to power up the battery. But you could sign transactions in two different ways. Maybe Q&A is going to rip me a new one, but I believe it's only two different ways.
Correct. You are correct.
Through the camera, and which is, I love signing through the camera. It's super awesome. And then via the SD card, right? Both of which are really, really cool because you don't actually connect the device to a computer. Computers are, connected to the internet, obviously, more than likely it's fine, right? But if you're a paranoid Bitcoiner like a lot of us, right, you want your keys completely air gapped, right? So of course you guys know about the Passport. We've been talking about it for a while. It connects with the Envoy app on your phone. The Envoy app is incredibly easy to use. It's really, really awesome. It's your Bitcoin wallet, and the Envoy app actually allows you to connect to your node, right? So you can connect with Foundation's node, right? And I'm sure those guys aren't doing anything with your UTXOs, but let's say you're like, no, I don't trust Q&A. That British accent doesn't inspire trust to me. I'm not trusting that. You can actually connect the Envoy app with your own node if you want to trust minimize the whole situation. The Passport is completely open source. You don't have to trust anyone. You can audit the software yourself, and it's a really, really awesome device. You can scan the QR code on your screen. Use promo code Simply. You won't get Opti, but you will get a discount on the Passport. Now they just announced the Passport Prime, and it's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. And it does something more than just securing your Bitcoin, your seed words. And I'll pass it on to Q&A because Q&A is going to do the pitch a whole lot better than I can. This device has not been released yet, but you can reserve it now. So Q&A, can you tell the audience right now, we have 2,753 people watching live about the newly released Foundation product, the Passport Prime.
Yeah, firstly, I think you did a great job with going through Passport, Nico. That was beautiful. Just one thing I want to add before I start talking about Passport Prime, which you can see on screen, and this is a good problem to have, but the listeners and our customers have literally bought out all of our stock from our US factory. So we are working double time to re-up and to manufacture those as quickly as possible. We're on a rough shipping timeline of 2 to 3 weeks at the moment. So if you place your order today for a Passport, then that will be shipped out in around 2 to 3 weeks. And we appreciate your patience and thank you for clearing out all of our stock. We didn't see it come in. So yeah, that was wonderful to see happen. So yeah, just a couple of weeks, bear with us and we'll be back in stock and shipping next day. With that said, what you can see on screen is Passport Prime, our new device. I'm being very careful here to not call this device a hardware wallet. That's for two reasons. The first is that it does way more than that. And the second one is that it has different kind of trade-off models to the existing Passport device that Nico's just been talking about. With Passport, as Nico said, it's entirely air-gapped. It's completely offline. It is the most secure way that you can keep your Bitcoin safe, secure, and offline. You can't interact with it via USB. You can't plug it into a computer. You have to interact with it via QR codes or micro SD cards. Again, that's intentional, and that's to maintain the maximum level of security that we can. However, that poses some UX hurdles, which we've done our best to lower the barrier to entry of. But you can only go so far with an air gap device. You still have to bridge that gap by doing, QR code scanning or micro SD card passing back and forth, which can be a little bit of a hurdle for some people to kind of gain an understanding of what's going on. So with Passport Prime, along with a bunch of new features, which I'll get onto in a second, we've added additional connectivity options, namely NFC and encrypted Bluetooth communications that we're calling Quantum Link. What that means is that you can do all of your usual Bitcoin kind of transactions and management with Envoy or mobile app or any of the other wonderful open source alternatives that are on the market. But if you don't want to do that via QR code or micro SD card, you can have it kind of happen magically over NFC with a quick tap or via our encrypted Bluetooth communications as well. Such that what that means is that basically everything can happen kind of on the Passport Prime screen, and it's a much more of a seamless experience so that you don't have to kind of juggle the two devices back and forth. It's a much faster operation and it kind of makes things a lot faster and easier. Onto the additional functionalities, we're calling Passport Prime a personal security platform. The reason that we're doing that, or we're calling it that, should I say, is that, of course, it will secure your Bitcoin. It will have all of the features that the existing Passport has in terms of all of the Bitcoin management software. So additional seeds, passphrases, multi-sig, QR codes, all of that stuff will all be in Prime. It will be at feature parity at launch. But alongside that, we've added in loads of other cool functionalities, such as you can now have your 2FA codes app so that you can secure all of your online accounts and have those offline stored on Prime. You can have your FIDO security keys, similar to kind of how Apple does their passkeys. You can have those stored on Passport Prime. You can have a seed vault as well, which is kind of like the vault where you can keep all of your different seeds. So it can act as an additional backup for all of the different mobile wallet seeds that you have. So if you use, say, Sparrow, or you have a mobile wallet on Blue Wallet, or you use something like Nunchuk, you can have all of those backed up in Passport Prime as well. What else have I missed? Oh yeah, we also have an encrypted file storage as well. So you can keep 50 gigabytes worth of your most important files encrypted and offline on your Passport Prime as well. And just so you can get an idea for the form factor, this is roughly 2/3 the height of an iPhone. So it's very portable and easy to be much more of a daily carry device when compared with something like an offline air-gapped hardware wallet like Passport. As you've probably seen from the images, it is a touchscreen device, so it will feel very intuitive to, well, everybody on the planet that owns a smartphone. And we default to a very slick NFC Shamir secret sharing backup scheme. What that means is that essentially you can get set up and backed up in about 5 minutes. You just tap 2 cards to the back of the device. And then a third shard or third piece of your seed is encrypted and sent off to your iCloud or to your Google account. Now that might make some hardcore Bitcoiners shudder at the thought of like one shard of their kind of private key going up to the cloud. Again, that is completely optional, but the idea with Prime here is that we are further lowering that barrier to entry to make this ready for the masses. And the most important part for me is that you can get it in 2 colorways, which you can see on screen. And as the resident dark mode maximalist at Foundation, very, very, very happy to announce that we are now shipping a dark mode device so that you can get that stealth look.
Yeah, I don't even know why there's white mode. Like now that there's like dark mode, like I feel like, like if you are using like X on white mode, like I don't want to be your friend.
You're a psychopath.
Yeah, like I don't want to be your
Absolutely.
friend. So yeah, no, the colors are absolutely beautiful. The design of the device is absolutely beautiful. And again, guys, this is all about like I want to talk about the 2FA thing for a little bit, just to kind of give you guys an example. So if you guys have a Gmail account or something, more than likely you have 2FA signed up. If for whatever reason you're using SMS, I highly recommend against that. There's a lot of SIM swapping and a lot of things going around. So you probably have 2FA on, and 2FA is you scan a QR code on your phone and you have Google, I forget what it's called, Google Vault. What is it? I forget. But anyhow, you have a Google Authenticator on your phone or Authy, and you have all your 2FA codes on your phone. Problem is that your phone is hot. It's connected to the internet, right? And now, for whatever reason, Authenticator even is allowing cloud backups, which I think is fucking crazy. Excuse my language. So this is awesome because you can now have your 2FA codes on an air gap device, right? That's very, very important. Also, this is really cool. I actually didn't know about this, but you guys have 50 gigabytes of encrypted storage on the device itself. So if there's any type of very sensitive documents or any types of sensitive data that you have, I don't recommend putting it on your phone. This is a great to have it on the device itself. So it's more than a hardware wallet. It has a lot of this functionality that a lot of your sensitive data and this digital world that we live in, as much as that central banker was like, we got to get ready for digitalization by rolling out a CBDC. He is right about the world becoming more digital. You gotta take care of your online, on your online identity and your keys. You got to do it the right way. So yeah, definitely get yourself a Passport Prime. Reserve it now. The Passport is available now. You guys aren't discontinuing the Passport, right? Because that's a fan favorite.
Absolutely not. That is going nowhere. We're just sold out temporarily for the next couple of weeks. You can still place an order. Passport, as you see it, is going nowhere. And a little bit of alpha news for the listeners. We may or may not be releasing a very, very, very minor twist on the current Passport in the coming months. No need to hold out in terms of, is it going to be a big improvement in any sort of functionality or any, abilities. It will be similar in that respect. Just a very slight different option to cater to different tastes is all I'll say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good sneak peek. I don't even know what it is, but I'm not going to guess. But Q&A, I do want to jump in here because there were a few good comments in the chat. And I think it'd be good to hit on those live before we wrap up today's show. So you responded to them in the chat. I don't have access to my computer right now, but if you just want to rehash the questions and then give those answers, and then we can roll out today.
Yeah, so Kaifo Me asked if we have a stateless mode support. Yes, we absolutely do in both Passport and Passport Prime. And for those that aren't aware what that means, that's basically, the ability to use Passport or Prime as in kind of like seed signer mode, where the seed or the master secret is never ever saved to the device. What that poses with it some UX hurdles in that you have to load the seed into the device every time. But some of the more advanced users do prefer that rather than the seed being active, albeit secured by the secure element, all of the time on the device. So we support that you can choose your own journey. You can have the seed saved permanently, which is the traditional way, or you can use it in stateless mode as well.
Keith in the chat says, I'm calling it Q convinced Zach to drop a blocked out Passport.
I could not possibly comment on that other than with a wry smile.
Oh my God. Someone asked, does it have a lock screen with a password?
Yeah, absolutely. You can choose a numerical PIN or a proper alphanumeric password.
Incredible. So Anthony asked, so this device is just storing my BTC, not able to use regular for service. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the last bit is, but yeah, it will store your Bitcoin like a traditional hardware wallet would, but it does all of the extra things that I just mentioned as well. 2FA code, security keys, additional seeds, file browser, etc., etc. And the bit I kind of failed to mention is that we're building this on an open source operating system called KeyOS that we built from the ground up. Obviously, that is like everything that we do, completely open source, and what that means is that Passport Prime users are not wholly reliant on us to produce apps for the device. So if you have, let's say Casa as a great example, if Casa wanted to build their own app for Passport Prime, they could go and do that. They could just integrate with us. They don't even need our permission. Obviously, we'd love them to do that. But the sky is the limit for what this device can do. Basically, we are not the gatekeepers. We're going to open source everything, as always. We'll have a kind of an open app platform. And if you have a popular wallet, let's say, I don't know, Nunchuk, Cake Wallet, or let's say it doesn't even need to be Bitcoin focused. It could be a password manager like Bitwarden. If you wanted to build an app and have it live on Prime, we would welcome that. We would help you do it. And well, more importantly, we can't stop you from doing that.
Incredible. Last question here is, how much is it by Money2247?
Yeah, good question. I should have mentioned that. It's $299 US. You can reserve now. We have a handful of early access units remaining, and I do literally mean a handful of those. They are due to ship in the beginning of April, and then you can also pre-order just a general sort of sales device, which are due to ship after we complete the first 1,000 early access units. So that will be towards the end of April, beginning of May.
Incredible, guys. Scan the QR code. You can use promo code Simply, get a discount on the Passport, and pay attention to the Passport Prime. We're going to be doing a lot of collaboration with these guys in the Simply Bitcoin Academy, showing you guys how to take self-custody, how to reclaim your sovereignty, your digital sovereignty in general. Q&A is going to be joining us on the show. It's going to be a new segment. Incredibly excited for it. And yeah, guys, this was Simply Bitcoin Live for February 20th. No, before I do that, I have to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, BitBlockBoom. It's going to be happening in Dallas, Texas, April 3rd through the 6th of 2025, the longest running Bitcoin conference celebrating their 8th year. You can pay in Bitcoin or fiat for your tickets. The ticket prices do increase in 10 days, 20 hours, 30 minutes, 38 minutes, and 50 seconds. What makes BitBlockBoom awesome is that you can pick and choose which ticket you want to buy. So if you just want to go to the dinner, if you just want to go to the casino night, if you just want to go to the brunch, it's all included, right? No, it's not all included. You can pick and choose which ticket you want to buy. So it's awesome. The Texas barbecue is amazing. This is one of my favorite Bitcoin conferences of the year. They have a very special speaker that is potentially going to the conference, so you definitely don't want to miss it. So guys, go check out BitBlockBoom, get your tickets now, and if you use promo code BBB21, you get $100 off of your tickets. Anyways, guys, this was Simply Bitcoin Live for February 20th, 2025. I'm your host, Nico. It's my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. Our special guest for today, we got Q&A in the house from Foundation Devices. And Yellow is trolling us in the chat. If you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do.
No.
If you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button and consider subscribing. We love you all. We'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.